Nearly 2 months after a construction crane collapsed onto a Dallas apartment complex, hundreds of residents are still without their belongings, and many are still without answers. The I-Team's Brian New is live at the Elon City apartment complex with a new challenge that so many of these tenants are still facing. Brian?
Yeah, so last week, Steve, OSHA gave the green light to crews to start disassembling that crane back there. But meanwhile, residents, many whose apartments weren't even damaged in the collapse, say they are still waiting in limbo. When the crane came down,
and it sounded like just the gnarliest crack of thunder you've ever heard.
All most residents were worried about was getting out alive.
I look out and the entire courtyard had just turned completely white and gray from debris.
But now, 2 months later, Sunny Felipe simply wants to move on. But like many residents, she says she can't.
It just feels like I'm gonna be in limbo forever.
When the crane fell, Felipe and her husband left their apartment with little more than the clothes on their backs. The apartment management hasn't told them when they'll be able to get the rest of their belongings, or even if all their stuff is still in their apartment or has been moved into storage.
I don't know. And at this point, I've had to replace a good bit of it, right?
Felipe says adding insult to injury is the fact her insurance has so far declined to pay to replace anything. It first wants to know the fate of their possessions.
The entire thing has been frustrating and complicated, time-consuming and exhausting.
This week, a small number of residents were told their belongings are ready to be picked up from storage. But even that process, some residents say, has been aggravating. First, appointments have to be scheduled, and then residents are given 2 hours to get everything out.
The fact that we have 2 hours to move our stuff and then it's considered abandoned, that can't be okay. It's crazy. The whole situation is just crazy.
So on top of all this is the fact that residents are going to have to pay for their own moving company to pick up their possessions from that storage facility. We have reached out to the complex's management team several times today. We're still waiting to hear back from them. As for a timeline as to when all residents will have their belongings back, well, there is no timeline. In Dallas, Brian New, CBS 11 News.